This one was sent in by Anonymous, but I think this is going to be a really good one because I find it very relatable for a lot of people. I think people can kind of put themselves in these shoes. Are you ready?
I am. Let's dive in.
All right. It says, "Hey, Brock, help me, please. I have recently been struggling with being single. Most of my days I'm okay, but after so long, it's starting to get me down. I have talked to so many people, and it just seems to really go nowhere. Or they say they don't want anything, and then a few days later, I see them in a relationship. It's really getting to me. It makes me think that there's something wrong with me. I have a great job. I make decent money. I juggle being a single mom and work really hard. I'm super independent. I don't ever ask anybody for help for anything. I feel like I'm decently pretty. I've even had people tell me that I come on strong-willed, but I just go after the things I want in my life. Those are all good traits to have, right? Am I too intimidating? I'm not really sure. Are there any tips or suggestions on how I can handle these things?" And again, that was signed by Anonymous.
All right, Anonymous, thank you so much for writing this in. I think you sent this in a couple weeks ago, and we've had some other ones that had to get in front of you, but I'm so glad we finally get to dive into this one because I cannot tell you how many women reach out to me daily asking, do I come off as intimidating? So I'm going to give a real quick knee-jerk reaction. Ladies, listen up. If you having a job, having a house, being able to take care of yourself, being able to pay your bills intimidates the man, he's the wrong man. You do not need to water yourself down. You do not need to tiptoe around his insecurities. That is not something that you need to worry about. That's something that actually filters unqualified men from being in your life longer than they deserve. So, ladies, if you think that you are intimidating men by simply having things that you need just to live, those are not the right men. But what I'm going to do when we come back, I'm going to talk about how sometimes women do lead a little bit in their masculine energy when talking about some of these things, especially with the hyper independence.
Okay. All right, we'll get into it right after this. More with Brock on Hits 96.
Anonymous, thank you so much for submitting this. I was saying before we went to the music break that this is probably one of the most common messages that I receive from women is, do I come off as intimidating?
Yeah.
And I was saying also before we went to the commercial break that if you simply having means to survive, you're able to make your own money, you have a job, you have a house, if those types of things intimidate a man, that is the wrong man. You do not need to be worrying about watering yourself down. You do not need to worry about if those things make you seem unapproachable or anything like that. Keep doing what you're doing. However, I am going to say this. There is a comment in here is I am very independent. Now, there's nothing wrong with having your ability to make money, that you're self-sufficient. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is something wrong being hyper independent. And what that is where you don't even want anybody to help. And you did say that. I don't ask anybody for help. There is strength, I think, and a beauty to women who are willing to ask for help. Men generally will not. We just won't. We'll suffer. We'll figure it out. The last thing, like, we would almost rather die than ask for help. It is attractive, ladies, for you to ask for help. And to say that you don't, that you won't, that you're super independent, that is when you're stepping into your masculinity. That's unattractive. There's nothing wrong with being able to pay your bills. There's nothing wrong with being able to afford your living expenses. But when you pride yourself on not wanting or needing anyone to ever help, and you'll do anything to make sure nobody can help you, a man starts looking at himself and says, well, what role am I actually going to have in this relationship? Okay, she can provide for herself. Fantastic. But if she's not even going to ask for help, which makes me feel good about being a man in a relationship, I want to be able to fix things. I want to be able to contribute. Where is his position in your life? And if you're saying that you're confident and competent in doing all the things that a man would do in that relationship, there is quite literally no space for him. And, this is the big part of this, is you have to be able to find a balance. And this is so unfair for women today, is that they have to find this balance between their femininity and their masculinity. But it just is what it is. We have equality in the workspace. So ladies, you're out there working, you're in the same environment that men are, but you have to really focus on making sure that when it comes to the romantic part of your life, that you're able to go into your feminine, because that is when you're the most attractive to the most attractive men that you want. You want a man that's masculine. I very rarely see women say that I want a feminine man. I very rarely see that. So on the flip side, ladies, you have to think, what is it that he's going to find attractive? He's going to find your femininity attractive. And it's so beautiful when a woman embraces that. And that doesn't need to be something that you put on the back burner or you shelve. Don't lead with, I don't need no man type of energy. It's just not an attractive thing. And if men were doing that, saying the same thing, I don't need no woman, like, you'd be like, that's not an attractive thing. We balance each other out extremely well, and it's one of the most beautiful parts of the human experience. So my advice is to find a balance in being able to take care of yourself, being self-sufficient, being independent, but not being hyper independent. Find ways that the man that you want in your life has space to live, to feel valuable, to feel appreciated, because if you don't give him any space, you're going to be single for a lot longer.
Right. So you don't have to be a damsel in distress at all times.
Of course.
You're not always looking for your knight in shining armor to save the day, but a guy does want to help.
Yeah, he does. I mean, it's part of our nature. We're fixers. When you start talking to us about your problems, about something that's going on in your life, we don't listen just so you can vent. We listen so we can problem solve. But if you're not giving us any problems to solve, we're useless and we feel useless. And guess what? Nobody wants to go where they feel useless. Nobody does. So we're always going to go to where we feel appreciated. So you have to leave space for somebody to come into your life and feel appreciated for the gifts that they naturally bring to a relationship.
And that has to be good too, especially in a new relationship, good for the building of the relationship.
Of course.
To lend a helping hand, to be able to help satisfy someone else's issues. It just feels good, and I'm sure you can bond over that.
Yeah,
as well.
And a really good example of this, by the way, ladies, this is one of the things that I hear a lot is, I don't want to submit to a man. I'm not going to dive really deep into this, but I'm going to give it a really simple example of what modern day submission looks like. Most women like it when a man drives. That is you submitting, letting him drive, and you be the passenger princess. There's nothing wrong with that. You see, like, all the women are like, okay, that actually does sound pretty nice for him to have to deal with all the traffic, and I can just sit over here and TikTok and Instagram, and I don't have to worry about all the aggressive drivers. That is what modern day submission looks like to a man. Let him do the leading in that dynamic, and that just creates such a good like balance of the masculine and feminine working together. And most women don't feel like they're being run over in that type of situation. They prefer it. So that's a really good example of what modern day submission looks like, and where a man feels like he's able to do the masculine things in the relationship.
It is an interesting look, and it's almost like society has changed a little bit, and I think that's really where that kind of comes from.
For sure.
Like holding of the door, opening or lifting heavy things, opening a jar. A lot of women seem nowadays, I don't need a man to do that for me. But it's okay to let them once in a while.
It is. There's actually a unique and beautiful power in letting somebody help. There really is.
Very good. Very good. Anonymous, thank you so much for writing in. Again, if you are out there listening, you can do the same. Send me an email. That's Gino, Gino, at WDODradio.com. You can also reach out to Brock on social media, give him a follow, and check out his website at brockolsen.com. Brock, thanks for the advice. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, Gino. Thank you.